long time no see. I've crawled out of my 6th, 7th month hiatus today because I need to talk about The Balance with you. 2 months ago, The Balance got a huge narrative push with 3 videos, and I hadn't listened to them. Not even because I was busy, because it's summer now, just because I hadn't gotten around to it. But last night, I finally did, and oh my god, I have words. And unlike my Imperium video, these are mostly positive words. I really got a kick out of these videos. I thought they were really good. Also, of course, I'm very excited to talk about the lore, which we'll get into when I talk about the last video. Okay, let me not waste any more of your time. Let's get straight into it. I'll be talking about each video separately, and then I'll probably have some words at the end. Okay, so first up, we have Aaron and Elliot. The theory that they were brothers had been going around for a long time. I'm not quite sure how popular it was. And I used to be super against the idea, mostly because the connections between the stories we have is already so complicated and convoluted. I didn't want to drag in one of our 2, I guess 3 now, unempowered characters into it. But I actually really enjoy them together, way more than I thought I would. Okay, so really quick plot TLDR here because we're going to need it. Elliot has just left the close-knit facility, and he tries to go to the department, but he can't talk to anybody because the inversion has just happened. That means that the video before this took place January 1st, and the video I'm talking about now was either the 1st or the 2nd. So, in a panic, Elliot calls the only person he knows to at the time, which is his brother Aaron, and that's how we get to this video. Alright, so first thing, I really liked the voice acting in this video in particular. I'll be probably saying this about all 3 of these, but with this one, my god, if there's anything Eric's good at with voice acting, it's crying. He pulls it off really well. He pulled it off ridiculously well with Gavin in the inversion as well. I was in hysterics, and right now I'm in hysterics. Great job. So, Aaron is an informed, unempowered. We did not know this before. I'm glad he's informed at least, because imagine having to hear about this whole situation and you don't even know magic exists. I think I would straight up drop dead in shock. So Aaron takes Elliot for a drive to get him away from his listener smartass, because he knows he won't talk if smartass is around. And he spills the beans all while crying. And I cannot imagine having to tell someone all of this bullshit in hysterics like this. Because, first of all, you're gonna learn about death. You gotta learn about death walkers. The government is covering up this magical tragedy. You know, the ancient evil gods being held underneath the river. There's a lot to go over, and Aaron is very supportive to Elliot in this video, which I do appreciate. They do have a bit of conflict, but I think it was very well written. It was very realistic conflict. I also can't imagine being like a teenager trying to, hold my family together, and all of a sudden my little brother gets magic powers. Like, what the fuck? Like, I completely understand both sides of their conflict is what I mean with that. Okay, so getting into the lore here, there isn't that much new lore in this video, besides, obviously, Aaron and Elliot are brothers, ooh. But the most notable thing to me, by far, was the department's cover story for the inversion to the unempowered public. They claimed that a convention center collapsed. And I'll be honest here, the more I think about it, the more I think this is kind of a bad cover story. Because 1, usually when a building collapses, I feel like there's footage from nearby, security cameras. 2, there is no building that actually collapsed, so unless the government actually orchestrated a building collapse and then pointed at that and went, that's where the 1,500 people died, how do people believe this? Because it's going to be no footage on the news or anything. I mean, maybe this is more complicated than I expected, and they, hired fake survivors of the collapse, and they did all this stuff. If they did, that would be cool shit, and I want to hear about it. But yeah, I just think this is interesting. We got a cover story. And this is something I really wanted to know, because back when Cutie explained the inversion to Jordy way back when, he didn't have any frame of reference for what happened at all. So I wanted to know how would they explain this sudden 1,500 people dead to the public. So yeah, very cool. Also, one last thing before I move on to the next video. I am surprised that Aaron wants to tell Smartass this so badly, because Smartass is not informed at all. They don't even know that magic exists. And imagine having to not only explain that magic exists to someone, but then also explain all of this stuff on top of that with death and the sovereigns and close-knit. Like, a lot of this shit is top secret knowledge that most people in the empowered world don't even know. So I don't know how Smartass is gonna immediately believe this. And then I also don't know how they're going to help. Like, I can understand if Aaron wanted to tell them, because that is just a shit ton of information that has just been left on him now. He says, he's like, we're gonna need all the help we can get. How is Smartass going to help? Well, okay. Next up on the docket, Blake and Bestie. I have choice words about Blake. If you look at my Tumblr, you could see that I was doing a little bit of Blake ranting, but I tried to not do that so I could do it in this video instead. But point is, Blake is a manipulative fuck. On one hand, we have known this for a long time, but he really amps it up in this video to, like, a ridiculously obvious extent, in my opinion. And I don't think I've gotten such massive ick from a man in my whole life, and that is saying something. So, I just wanted to talk about all the manipulation tactics Blake is using here. And then after that, I suppose we'll talk about the lore. But really, I just want to talk about how much I hate this man. Because he sucks ass. Point 1. He is so obviously obsessively attached to Bestie. He starts this video with his, like, a whole little metaphor about how he feels like he's drowning in his emotions. But they're an oxygen tank. And it's so tacky and stupid. Also, knowing Elliot's past, these drowning metaphors are fucking foul. I don't know if that was intentional, but the whole time I was appalled. He reeks. He reeks of desperation. And he definitely knows it from the way he's talking. Spoiler warning for Blake's truth, because I need to talk about this. Blake is a seer, right? So he can see the future. He knows he's manipulating them. He's aware of it. And he's aware of the effect it will have on them, and that's why he's doing it. So this isn't just he's desperate, and he's talking like a little loser. No, like, this is a purposeful decision that he's making right now. Ick. Also, he's clearly talking about how absolutely miserable he is, very openly, because he wants Bestie to feel bad for him. And it's super obvious, like, direct quote here. He says, I got way too many feelings to be spending too much time sitting with them. He is begging. He's begging for pity here. And it's not going to work on me. But it does work on Bestie. And I feel very bad for them. Now, here's where we get to the real shit that pissed me off. After his little desperation rant about how he's a poor, miserable loser, he's like, do you want me to trace patterns on you again? And he does this in the Valentine's video. So this isn't the first time he's done this. I don't like it, guys. I don't like it. I don't like him doing this bullshit, okay? Way back in the day when I was like, oh my god, Blake is so hypnotist coded. I don't think I've said this in a video. This was a joke. I was kidding. Eric, I was kidding, okay? I said that because he snaps so damn much. And it was a joke, okay? You didn't need to go in on it so hard. I'm not tolerating this from him, okay? Drives me up a wall. Massive ick from him, okay? He is a little manipulator, and he is trying to put Bestie in a position where they're either not going to realize or not care how manipulative he's being with his confession, which he pulls after this. So it's very clearly a manipulation tactic on his end to do all this silly, goofy shit now, and then back them into a corner with his confession later, so they don't feel like they have the option to tell him to get the fuck out of my house, you know? Because he has become more and more obvious with this shit as the videos went along. Because he did a lot of these same things in the Valentine's Day video, too. But he was more subtle with it. A good example of this is how he frames, like, leaving. He's like, oh, I'll just need a blanket on the couch and I'll be good. And it's like, he says it like that's the only option. Like, he can't just go the fuck home. He does a very similar thing in the Valentine's video where he's kind of like, oh, I don't need to sleep. I can just sleep here on the floor or something. I don't remember. It was a while ago. He does this, so Bestie's like, oh, no, it's fine. You can sleep in my bed. Because that's what he really wants out of them. Because if he says it that way, then Bestie will feel bad. And he's like, oh, I don't want Blake to sleep on the floor. I'm going to be courteous and say he can sleep in my bed. So, yeah, that's manipulative as fuck. So, he puts them in this precarious position, and then he does his whole confession rant. And I'm going to be honest, I tuned out for most of this because I was so done with this little hypnotist act, and it was driving me up a wall, and I was pacing around my room like a maniac because he ain't getting what he wants from me. I don't think I've been more tense in my life. So, yeah, he does a little confession. Whatever. He talks about all his bullshit. You guys fall for it, hook and line, and sinker in the comment section. And then he offers them an ultimatum. And I didn't write a quote down for this part because I was too busy seething by this point in the video. But he was basically like, oh, if you kiss me again, we're going to be together, like, for real. And it's going to be, and then you're going to go all in on this because you know how I am. Do I need to explain to you why this is manipulative? Like, no, this is not how you ask someone to be in a relationship with you. Especially when they're in a precarious position like Bestie is. Because I bet if Bestie did want to say no to him, they would feel uncomfortable doing so with their head in his lap after he's just ranted for 5 minutes about how empty his life is without them or whatever. He definitely knew that if he framed his confession this way, Bestie would kiss him. And then he gets really intense with it after they do so. Because I'm definitely sure that if Bestie had 5 minutes to themselves after this incident, they would have been more wary of Blake and his behavior. But he cannot give them that space. I assumed that from this thumbnail, it was because he was, like, gonna force himself to stay with Bestie because he knew if he didn't, they would die. Turns out that's not the case. He just knows that if they have 5 seconds to think, they're gonna be like, what the fuck is wrong with this guy, actually? So he doesn't let them leave. So yeah, they kiss again, boom, now they're together. Woo! Not that it means anything if Bestie's gonna die anyway. Okay, now that I've done my whole rant about how I hate Blake, I'm not even sure what lore I wanted to talk about for this video in particular. So I'm just gonna read this quote to you, and then we can move on to the next one. This is from Blake, obviously. And life's too short to waste it sweating every decision and every result. You'll drown in them if you do that. I don't even have anything to say about that. Ironic. Okay, next video. So this is the one actually jam-packed with stuff. This is the one where he's with Sunshine, and everything happens. Okay, first of all, the tonal shift between listening to Blake talk to his listener compared to him talking to Sunshine is absurd. He really is two-faced, and we know that. But my God, he is so mean to them. And I really don't think he needs to be as mean to Sunshine as he is to achieve his goals, but he sucks. Good Lord. Sunshine lays in bed for 2 fucking seconds, and he's like, what, do I need to get a bucket of water, Sleeping Beauty? What's wrong with you? Why are you the way that you are? Guys, I want to punch him so bad. He gives me the most violent urges. I want to give him a black eye. Can't fucking stand the guy. So, to clarify about all my ranting about how much I hate Blake, I hate him because he's very well written in his manipulation and his villainry. He is probably the best written villain Eric has made, to be honest. Although I also think maybe Regulus could hold that title as well, and maybe Vega in their behavior. They're very well written too. So anyway, that being said, I love how funny he finds it when Sunshine's like, they're gonna know you're looping the security footage, and he's like, do I look like I care? Like, he sounds so delighted. It's great. It's great. So then we get to the torture. But firstly, actually, I do want to talk about Blake's connection to Close-Knit, because as Blake's walking them down to go see the shade, and it's a woo reveal, he's like, I actually don't believe in Close-Knit's ideology. And I think this is a very interesting development, so I want to discuss it. I've known for a while that I was the one getting swindled by Blake's manipulation. He wasn't the one getting swindled by the cult. But I still do find this very interesting that he is using the cult to get to his goals. and not necessarily because he believes in it. I feel like this explains quite a few things, mainly his character in the Imperium. I did this rant in a video that got scrapped, but I need to do it again because it makes me feel very validated in my theorizing. Way back in season 1 of the Imperium, Blake is in the little slicer gang with Cody, and this was always weird because the Imperium government is very similar to close-knit in their, values. So you would think in an alternate reality where they're, the ruling class, I guess, Blake would be involved with them, but he's not. He's actively anti-Imperium because he's in his whole little, trying to slice people's threads. And I always thought this was weird. And it was also weird because he really doesn't do anything. In the one video he's in, he gets 2 lines, and both of them he gets interrupted by Vin. There was really no reason to put him there. And I spent a long time trying to theorize what the connection was between Blake and Cody. And way pre-inversion, my original theory was that Cody was a little close-knit bitch. And I do think that was a fun theory. It wasn't the case. Turns out this connection is more between Imperium Cody and Canon Blake. And the thing they mainly have in common is Vin and Scorpius. Vin and Imperium and Scorpius are being held in very similar positions. They're both being held hostage for their powers to do something by a group that is actively discriminatory against them. And that was the connection that I could not have predicted at the time because obviously we didn't know Scorpius existed. I don't know, so it made me happy that I was wondering so hard what the fuck was up with Blake and the Imperium, because that video, the Imperium Cody video, would have been exactly the fucking same, plot-wise, if Blake was not there. So I knew there had to be some sort of reason why Eric would bother to put Blake there, when it seems like on the surface he would actually be with the Imperium government. So yeah, rant over. I'm just delighted that Eric actually did some kind of fucking foreshadowing. I love it. I love foreshadowing, guys. It's so good. I love comparing the Imperium to canon to make predictions. It's one of my favorite things to do. I haven't listened to season 2 since I made my video on it, so I really need to go back and see if I can make any predictions with that, I guess. So back to what I was talking about with Blake's involvement in close-knit. Right after he says this whole thing, I don't believe in their ideology, he goes, and I wrote this quote down because it was funny to me. He went, "Don't get me wrong, demons are a problem. I think they're dangerous. I think they know more than they admit." And I think this really proves how much more dangerous Blake is and his ideology than close-knit actually is. Because way back in the video with Zeke and his little PowerPoint, the demon discrimination and the way they talk about demons there is intentionally amping up fears based on people's ignorance. It's oh, they want to take our feelings from us, blah, blah, blah. They're dangerous because religions say so, and haven't you considered that maybe it's because it's true? It's intentionally making people scared because they don't know. Blake does know about demons, and he knows, one, that they're not of the classical religious sense. He knows how their feeding works. He knows it doesn't take your feelings away from you. And despite all of that, he's still prejudiced against them, not because he is uninformed, but straight up just because he is. And let me talk about Avior a little bit. Disclaimer, haven't listened to his narrative push yet, so if this talks about this, I wouldn't know. But the fact that Blake, because it definitely was Blake who did this, no fucking doubt about it, ended up trying to attack Avior for feeding off of him, and then either accidentally or purposefully caused the whole thing that got him stuck, even though he knows damn well that a demon feeding off of you is not parasitic and it does not harm you in any way, is absurd. And it's not absurd in the sense that it's unrealistic. It's absurd in the sense that Blake is an absolutely bigoted fuck. He has no excuse of ignorance like a lot of members of Close-Knit do. He is literally just bigoted for the sake of it. Anyway, Blake wants to get Brachium's attention because he needs to talk to Brachium. So he puts Sunshine in a little feeding room, Imperium Parallel, I know, crazy, with a shade to scare Brachium into actually talking to him. And this interaction they have is very telling. So, Blake tells Brachium that he needs to talk with a sovereign. He doesn't want the sovereigns free, but he wants to communicate to the sovereigns because he is a seer, and in every vision he has of the future, his listener, Bestie, dies in his arms. And no matter what he does to change things, the circumstances around their death change, but their death never disappears. Every reality they die. And he believes that something is causing this, specifically the sovereigns, and he wants to speak to them. So this is very interesting to me. Take a shot every time I say that, because I feel like there has been a very intentional misdirection on what Blake believes and also what Vega believes, because oddly they're really similar in their beliefs. I haven't listened to a Vega video in a long time. I need to go re-listen to all his videos, and then I'll probably make one about him as well. But point is, Blake is not pro-sovereign. He doesn't want the sovereigns free, and neither does Vega. They both want to use the sovereigns for their particular goals. They're both aware the sovereigns are evil, presumably. I don't know about Vega. Blake definitely is. I am highly considering making a video also about the sovereigns and everything we know about them, because honestly, I don't think the lore website did a fantastic job with this. And also, I want to make a video about demon and sovereign, like, politics. Would you watch that? I think it would go hard. It would require quite a bit of research now, but it could be fun. It could be really fun. Anyway, I love this conversation here between Brachium and Blake, because Brachium is just fucking hilarious, because he is just so baffled by how stupid Blake's request is. Like, I wrote down some of his quotes because he's very silly. Like, Blake straight up says that his partner is going to die, and Brachium's like, everyone dies, and Blake's like, you know what I mean, and Brachium says, I really don't. Brachium is so me right now. Like, what is up with Blake? Like, what is he talking about? And then after Blake explains it more, Brachium responds with, if you can see their death, you can see the events that lead to it. Avoid it. Like, that's not the most obvious fucking thing in the world. He really does think Blake is an idiot. And he low-key kind of is. So yeah, I really can't help but wonder, why is Bestie going to die? But honestly, I don't feel like I have enough evidence to make any predictions based on that. I do think it's going to be something low-key kind of stupid, like, oh, there's either an Obscura or something revolving Aria is going to be involved in their death, and that's why he can't see it to change it. It's going to be something like that. What I do actually care about right now is Brachium's threats on Blake. They went so hard. Brachium slay. Brachium really popped off here. Blake has forced Brachium to be in this stupid fucking position where now he needs to go talk to the evil gods about, like, a singular human, and he is so fucking mad about it. I really want to see more of this side of Brachium. It was very cool. And honestly, he's right. Blake really does have fucking hubris to assume that the gods care about this singular person. I don't think that this talking to the sovereigns is going to fix this problem, because like I said, I think their death is probably connected to an Obscura or something in Aria that Blake cannot see, and that's why it's so set in stone, even if the scenario changes. So I don't think the sovereigns even would be able to help about this issue. I think he's really gonna regret this decision. So yeah, it was a really good video, and I really liked the drama here. But one thing I failed to talk about, because I wanted to save it for last, is the new stuff we get about shades here, because it is very interesting to me. Because both the shades and the sovereigns have sort of been framed in this psychological horror and sometimes body horror sense. And I eat this shit up breakfast, lunch, and dinner. I love it so much. It's so interesting. I love Echo's little speech at the end of Imperium Season 2 about the sovereigns being trapped in the Meridian and being forced to heal themselves and then fall apart over and over and over till the end of time. It was super cool. I really like this kind of stuff in the lore. And in this video, we get a good bit of stuff about the shades, and we didn't really know all that much about the shades before, so this is brand fucking new. Point 1. The shades are from the river, which I feel like we already knew. The thing we didn't know is that they are actively created by the sovereigns. We have this confirmed here. Point 2, so you know how after a shade eats enough life force, it can become tangible and they can kill it? If it eats more life force than that, Blake says, direct quote here, they start to actually remember their purpose. And they basically start to speak a message from the sovereigns promising like great rewards if they're freed, which Blake doesn't buy, thank God. And point 3, because I found this particularly fascinating, Blake mentions that the shades can be fed to a point of sentience. The word sentience really caught my attention here. The sovereigns fucking suck ass, and we've been knew this. They wanted the demons to worship them, and then they wanted the humans to worship them, and it didn't go very well. To me, this seems like the sovereigns have created a third species to worship them, and that this one doesn't have free will. Because, in a way, if you think about it, the shades to the sovereigns are like a better version of demons. Demons have to feed off of the sovereigns. The shades feed off of human life force. But the thing that's different between the shades and the demons mostly is that the shades don't gain sentience until they fed off enough life force. And since they're in the river, the sovereigns get the final say in whether a shade is allowed to have sentience or not by letting it free into the human world. But also, this makes me think about the river, because the river, and presumably shades also, and deathwalkers, don't exist in the Imperium. So I'm thinking maybe the reason the river exists is because it brings life force through it, through these almost dead people, for the shades to feed off of, so that they can let the shades free into the human world, to be like, hey, we need to let the old gods need to be free, so they can send their message out. Because the sovereigns are trapped, that's the only way they can communicate. And this also makes me think about the memory manipulation that goes on not only, presumably in the Meridian too, but in the river. Because when you're in the river, you, forget your memories of life. And with Starlight in the Meridian, when they were in the Meridian, they had, they were hanging out with Avior and they were in love. And then they were freed. And then when they came back in, they lost all their memories. So I definitely think this is a sovereign power. I feel like this is probably basically confirmed canon, being the interaction Avior has with the Ladyman Minora in the Imperium, and the interaction I know he has in canon, but I haven't heard yet. So yeah, I think we're fucking getting somewhere finally, and I'm very excited. So yeah, that's all from me, I think. This video is 28 minutes long now. I'm not surprised that it's that long, but it's still kind of crazy when you think about my covering of the entirety of season 2 is about this same length. And this is just about 3 videos. So, plan going forward. I am going to re-listen to all of Vega's videos because he only has 5, and I think I've only heard 3 of them. And I need to do that because one of them's like a year old and I still haven't heard it. So, I'll do Vega. I'll listen to Morgan's second video. Haven't heard that yet. And I'll listen to, lastly, Avior's narrative push. And hopefully I'll make a video about all of those things. This video was actually super exhausting to make, but also very cathartic, because I got to talk about my Blake hatred. I started recording this audio at 1:44 p.m., and now it's 4:05. So these are not scripted. I do have the notes from the video so I could talk about them and be more accurate. But this isn't scripted. I just re-say the same thing over and over until the delivery's good. So yeah, sometimes it takes quite a while. I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know your thoughts below in the comments. I haven't gotten any comments yet, so one of you should tell me about how I'm wrong and a moron, or tell me how I'm a genius. I will appreciate both equally because I want to discuss. And also, you should subscribe if you like this video, because I'll be making all of those other lore videos soon. I promise, I'll try, okay? And you could be my 4th subscriber, and that's really cool to be my 4th subscriber. Also, about that Gavin and Damien video I filmed ages ago, I convinced myself that it sucked, and then I re-listened to it a while ago, and it doesn't suck. It's perfectly fine. It just didn't feel good enough to upload after such a long hiatus, so I am going to upload it. It's going to be unlisted, but it should be uploaded at the same time this video is. I will link it in the description, and I will put it in my unlisted videos playlist. I'll make a community post. I'll do all the things, okay? So if you just want to listen to me ramble about how much I love Gavin and Damien, which I do love them and they're fantastic, you should go watch that video. It's about the reverse study video with Gavin, and then also that Gavin and Damien video where they're at the movies or something. I don't remember where they are. But yeah, I know those videos are a few months old by now, but they were new at the time I recorded that. So yeah, I will see you when I make my video about Vega. I hope you have a good day. I am so tired from filming this, and I got a bit of a headache, so I'm just gonna chill out. See you!